Billy?
Ooh, bacon.
Hey there, my delicious pieces of hickory smoked bacon bits. It's your boy Reverse BLT here, and today I'm getting into a series that I have been anticipating for quite some time, ever since they announced it, The Wheel of Time. Now, I came to the Wheel of Time book series in a strange kind of way.
It's story
In
time.
college, I had a friend who I told about how my life is very bizarre, coincidental, lots of weird crap has been happening to me my whole life that always seems to hinge on other things and kick off other things. And there's this weird ripple effect that I always noticed that would ripple in past my own life into other people's lives. And she said, I wonder if you're a Taberon. I had no idea what the hell she was talking about. I spent years trying to figure out what the hell she was talking about. And I'm a mythology nerd. My major in college was comparative religion. So I was coming at this from an angle of maybe she's talking about some obscure mythology that I don't know about. Couldn't find anything about it. Fast forward several years, literally decades. I'm sitting in a pub with some new friends after moving to a new city. We were talking about weird mythologies and coincidences and things like that. And I told them about this thing that had been driving me insane for years that I could never figure out. When I was describing it, one of them laughed and she said, "You're talking about the freaking Wheel of Time." And I was like, what is that? And she explained it. I felt so stupid because A, I had never heard of it. And B, here I was running around trying to figure out this profound mystery that came from a series of fantasy novels. Fast forward another couple of years and I see them on a bookshelf and I say, you know what? I'm gonna read these. I'm gonna finally find out what this is all about. And I love them. I just started inhaling them.
Cocaína.
I had a few issues with certain ideas. Robert Jordan was very clearly, at least in this book series. Because here's the thing, I write myself, and I'm gonna tell you, you can't always tell what an author's personal beliefs are based on the world they create. It's clear that the Wheel of Time's world is a very gendered world. It's very much a world where sex, your male or female matters a lot, and there are clearly defined kind of roles and natures baked into their reality. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the way he thought, but that is that world. And the cultures clearly represented that too. I wouldn't have minded that anyway, because cultures are like that. Cultures will always have defined roles that they expect their people to follow, whether they be gender-based roles, religion-based roles, socio-political, economic, all that stuff. That's just what cultures do. And you're not going to create a believable culture that is what we would consider enlightened in every aspect. You know what I mean? There are going to be cultures that have good things, or at least what we consider good things, and the cultures that have what we consider bad things in them. I actually really appreciated that element. So I would have preferred to have seen the rules of the universe itself, not care so much about whether you were a man or a woman. Full disclosure, I have not finished the books yet. I'm about to get into what everyone always calls the slog or whatever. Several of my friends who've read the series are eagerly awaiting my going through that part to see if I even survive it. I'm expecting this series to make some of the standard changes when you're adapting novels into a visual format, streamlining certain characters, probably combining aspects of smaller or more ancillary characters into larger ones that we have to follow. Probably also drawing out a few mysteries that get answered fairly quickly in the books. And there may be characters who get introduced earlier, characters who get introduced later than we would probably expect to see them based on where the novels did it. I have seen a few people complaining about wokeness. I never pay attention to stupid shit like that, because the truth of the matter is updating things to make them more inclusive or more diverse almost never breaks a story.
Of course you'd say that.
Unless you have a character trait that's specific to the race, it's not going to matter. And I don't remember there being much of that in there. The most important stuff is Rand is going to be a redhead. You know what I mean? He pretty much has to be a redhead. It's an identifying characteristic. You guys all know what that's about. So if he's not redheaded, then that'll be a little weird. I expected Moiraine to be smaller, but Rosamund Pike is a good actor, so I'm okay with her being a little larger. But other than that, seriously, there's not really much that, they can't change because it would affect the characters. I did hear one unfortunate thing about Aaron, like the story arc they apparently give him in the first couple episodes. It makes me a little nervous about where they're going with this, but also that completely destroys the idea that the people making the show are super obsessed with being woke. Because if the spoiler I heard is true, that's about as non-woke a plot development as you possibly have in the beginning part of the series. Let's go ahead and get into the Wheel of Time. Let's get some Aes Sedai and some Dark One and all that other stuff going on here. Let's channel.
Many, many years ago, men who were born with great power believed they could cage darkness itself. The arrogance.
Men and women born with great power.
And the women of the Aes Sedai were left to pick up the pieces. These women remembered one thing above all.
Okay, didn't expect them to show us all of this.
Who brought the breaking of the world.
Are they being chased by Trollocs? Oh, nope, those are definitely not Trollocs. Oh, it's the Red Aja. Oh, we're getting straight into Logain. Okay. Okay. That's appropriate for Earth channeling. We really shouldn't see a bunch of crazy shit going on when they channel most of the time. Sometimes.
There's no one else here. The madness already has him.
Where next?
The Two Rivers.
So maybe that wasn't Logain? There are a whole bunch of
Fortavir in there.
false dragons.
All the right age.
I would have preferred they left some more secrecy about what was going on with Moraine. I would have liked to have seen it from the point of view of the Taviran, which I did eventually learn how to say correctly because of reading the books and going through the glossary. Not Taberon. Cat, if you're out there, I love you, but you led me on a wild goose chase. But I would have preferred to have seen it from their perspective, where they didn't really know who this woman was, what she was about, and have the audience discover it with them, you know? Because I remember the first moment where she revealed that she was Aes Sedai in the book was just so shocking.
To be a woman is to be always alone, and never alone. So, when the dark surrounds you, and you see no light, feel this braid, but know that we all stood before you. We all stand with you.
Audio mix is weird. It's cutting in and out. Like the music isn't mixing with the audio. I mean, with the speech correctly. So is this what people were complaining about wokeness? This is totally how Nynaeve thought. She thought women were like better than men. This is it was like a big deal with her. So the people hearing her talk and go, oh, there's stupid wokeness talking about women like they're better than men. That Nynaeve totally believed that women were better than men. I don't remember there being a weird, like a trial of any sort to join the women's circle, though. I thought it was just something that happened when you got to a certain age. They basically just declared you to be a woman. So I'm guessing, you know, something they made up for the show. Maybe it's a way for us to see that, because I'm assuming this is, I missed it if they said her name. I'm assuming this is Egwene. So maybe it's a way to see her channel early on before we were supposed to know what that is, or that she could do it. But I have to say, Two Rivers looks pretty much how I expected.
I want to thank you all very much for bearing with me tonight. Can't imagine it's been easy to part with all your money, but...
Aaron!
How much money did he lose today?
I lost count, but it was more than enough.
Okay. So they're making Matt a little more overtly reckless with his money. I mean, he was always a gambler, but I understand that. It gets us a little into the storyline he's going to get into later. Faster. I think what they're trying to do is avoid having to do as much overt exposition.
No, you drink with us tonight.
Because they're already doing a little more than they should.
Cheers, everybody.
A little more telling than showing going on.
2 beds and fresh linen, that's all we need. Of
Okay.
course, Moraine Sedai.
I really don't understand that change. Well, I guess that explains why they didn't bother doing any secrecy with her earlier. She wasn't even going to try to hide what she was.
Maybe she's headed to the war in the south.
Moiraine was definitely not
In the
traveling
stories,
openly
they
as Aes
say.
Sedai.
One Aes Sedai can turn the battle on her own.
I don't care where she's going to, but we'll all be happier and safer when she's there.
Maybe they did it as a
Where's Layla?
way of explaining
Probably
why
at the forge.
Nynaeve just like didn't trust her right from the
Iron's
beginning.
hard to work alone.
So far,
Give
it's
it
an
going,
odd
my
choice
best.
that I can't see a justification for. This is one change I get that I'm sure is pissing people off, but I do get it. In the book, we never really got a feel for why Matt was as reckless as he was. And in reality, most people who are like that tend to have a lot of issues at home. And I think he did have some problems with his dad in the books, but I don't think they were really fully
How about you two sleep with me
explained.
tonight instead of my dad, yeah?
But it would make sense to me if his home life was a little harsh. His constant escaping into, you know, the gambling and womanizing and just trying to be bigger than life and everything makes a lot of sense.
To pay attention now than before.
Everybody looks too clean.
Egwene, why don't you two finish up the dishes?
Of course.
He's channeling a little too much Hayden Christensen from the Star
Right,
Wars
just-
prequels.
I'm thinking about something that Nynaeve...
That ring is ridiculous. I'm sorry. I never imagined the Aes Sedai ring to be so, like, blatantly Aes Sedai. Like, it's like this freaking big. How can anyone not notice it? Wait, so did they just actually do it?
You let me fall asleep.
Oh, we're definitely changing some things.
You act as if I had some say in the matter.
I don't really think that necessarily alters their character fundamentally, but it is a little odd.
Today.
It wasn't today. It was before. Nynaeve. She asked me to become her apprentice. To study to be a wisdom someday.
Okay, yeah.
What? Being a wisdom. No husband. No kids.
Hey, man, I don't remember any of that from the books. I thought wisdoms could marry. But then a lot of them chose not to. Ah, I should have reread the book before watching this.
Rand.
You know what? Actually, no, I think that is true. I think wisdoms don't marry. Yeah. Okay, so far the most jarring thing to me about this adaptation is just there's some really odd choices in terms of how it's being shot. Oh, it's
Very bell time. Very bell time.
oh crap! I can't think of his name.
No sweet sticks for you.
Someone say his name already because I can't remember it.
Matt Cawthon, my best and poorest customer.
You're a right bastard, Valentine.
There we
Pleasure as
go.
always.
You didn't sleep last night.
You think one of the Eyeless is already here?
If one of the Murdral had already arrived, wouldn't you know for sure they were there? Aes Sedai? I thought that was...
Thought you might be here.
Am I misremembering? Isn't that one of their basic powers? Or no, the warders have the power to detect them. The land would know.
When I come up here, you know what I wonder about?
Sand? And whether it gets into everything?
I wonder about my life here.
I'm going
I
to...
know.
Uh,
I already know.
I'm not really sure what changes for you guys, though, in this version of the world. guys are already doing it. So you won't be able to get married. Big deal. Still have kids and everything, clearly.
See, people say you're too young to be the wisdom, and I disagree. I think you're strong. Even if you have only had that braid for, what, a year or two? I've had it for 5. So that makes you 25. 26.
That doesn't mean I can't do my job. And whatever you may think, that is to protect this town. From you, if I have to.
So I think they aged people up a little bit. I'm
Enjoy
pretty
your
sure that you got your braid when you were like 13 or something in the book. But modern audiences really can't handle the idea of people being considered adults when they're not 18 yet, so. The Fang of the Dark One.
To buy some lanterns for the girls.
You'll be alright.
Alright, well that part's accurate. Matt is proud.
Thank you.
I feel like the show's not doing enough to clearly establish how close those 3 are. I think they're sort of expecting us to kind of infer it from a few scenes of them sitting at a table together. But I think we need more than that.
How long does it take before the wheel of time turns someone's spirit back into the world again?
Wish I knew, but I'm sure there's a reason no one can remember their previous lives.
I'm pretty sure they're not supposed to know any of this. But that's okay. I mean, it's a way of explaining it to us, I guess, so that when weird shit starts happening, we are primed for it.
Pain we face, the wheel keeps turning.
This looks like a proper little village festival. You know what I mean? Like something that would seem extremely impressive to the people who grew up here, but is very, very quaint to everyone else.
Tom, what's wrong?
Really? Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. The show's biggest problem so far is poor direction.
What's happening?
Because this is coming off extremely amateurish. And I can appreciate some of even the visual effects for what they're trying to do. They're not terrible looking. But it's just the way the scene is being shot is just not it's not conveying the terror and the awe of what was happening in this attack.
They were right here, right?
Where are the girls?
But you know what it reminds me of? M. Night Shyamalan's Last Airbender. This feels like the scene with the Earthbenders, where it's just like everything looks like it's being like shot by people who didn't do a whole lot of planning. Where it's like the extras and the people in the scene, their choreography wasn't nailed down, and you know you can clearly see background actors doing their loops and waiting to do something and things like that. They need a veteran action director for scenes like this, just like what Game of Thrones would do when they had episodes where they knew they had big action set pieces coming up. They had specific directors who they would have do it. Because they were very good at shooting that sort of thing. And whoever shot that scene was clearly not good at shooting that type of stuff. Like honestly, the Trolloc does not look bad. I had heard people saying that they look terrible. The Trolloc does not look bad. Everything happening around the Trolloc looks terrible. Okay, the lighting on that one scene is pretty bad. We really didn't need that moment focusing on the heron mark. there's obviously a ton of potential here, but they need to work on hitting their stride fast. That was good. The lighting is a little off. They need to spend more time in their rendering, but the movement was very good, very visceral and animal-like. Alright, that looks cool. The initial channeling did not look cool. Yeah, this is feeling a lot like Last Airbender, and that's not good.
Come and get some of this!
Hey, it's alright, I've got you.
Dude, they found a perfectly good hiding spot. You should have left them there.
You remember when we played hide and seek?
Yeah, big look.
Which they were just doing?
Let's go.
So there's a principle in combat, magic, all that kind of stuff, like in terms of like portraying it. It basically says the bigger the effect, the bigger the action, and the bigger the action, the bigger the effect. So if you see somebody waving their arms around, doing all sorts of crazy movements for a really long period of time, you expect that what's going to happen is going to be similarly impressive. It's going to match the intensity of what they just did. And I'm not getting that at all from Moiraine's channeling. Oh. Okay, I get this choice. I actually understand what they were doing there. So, some spoilers for people who haven't read the books. Perrin is going to have difficulty controlling a sort of like an animalistic side of himself, and I think they were trying to kind of show that here. Also to give us a reason for why he would be extremely reluctant to give into that side of himself. I think there was a better way to do it, but I do think that's what they were going for. But essentially, we just had a character get fridged. So for all you guys complaining about wokeness, you clearly don't know what the hell it means to be woke. Because fridging a woman like that is the opposite of woke. Alright, that was okay. Interesting choice. Just to help us understand that while Aes Sedai are very powerful, they are not invincible. In the book, Moiraine was like hurling fire and lightning like all over the fucking place, and it was freaking amazing. I don't know why they couldn't do that here.
Give me strength.
Maybe they're gonna do it now. They were just saving it all for one big shot. I'm starting to get the feeling that the people making the show don't understand how channeling works. It's not literally just her pulling up enough power to, like, use telekinesis on some heavy objects. It's conjuring shit out of thin air, basically. And, yeah, affecting the environment around you, too, but, like... Wheel disposed of her, almost like she wasn't supposed to exist or something. That's wrong of me. But seriously, there was a better way to do that with Perrin's story than inventing a character to fridge. I don't know why they decided we needed to see the channeling. We did not need to see that. Seeing the effects is good enough, you know? Honestly, I would have preferred to only see the weave during moments where they were showing it to each other
show up.
as part of
Then
teaching.
these things the next day.
They're here for the same reason as I am. For you. For the four of you. There's no time. We leave now. The wheel of time turns, and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend.
The opening narration of each book.
And even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again.
There are no beginnings or endings to the turning of the wheel. This is a beginning.
In one age, called the Third Age by some, a wind rose in the mountains of mist. The wind was not the beginning. There are neither beginnings nor endings to the turning of the wheel of time. But it was a beginning.
That's a lot of fucking executive producers. That was not an opener that was as strong as it needed to be. Like, not even close. There definitely, and this is probably largely just because I'm familiar with the source material, there is enough there to grow into something interesting that I'm going to keep pushing forward for a bit.
Forever the optimist.
But if I had no knowledge of the source material whatsoever, had no idea where any of this was going, and didn't already care about a lot of these characters, that would not have been enough for me to get me invested. And because I do know where some of this is going and care about a lot of these characters, some of that was enough to make me wonder if I want to keep going forward. Most of the changes they made to characters and plot lines did not actually bother me. I understood what they were trying to do. There were better options. And I think if they had thought longer and talked longer in their writing rooms about what they wanted, about how they wanted to achieve these things, they could have found better ways that weren't as insulting to certain characters. Like, for instance, the biggest thing that sticks with me is giving Perrin a wife just so you can fridge her. And like I said, I get what they're doing with that, like why they're doing it. It establishes that Perrin will have fear, specifically about losing control to bloodlust during combat. That is an important thing he has to wrestle with as a character, so I get why they did it. They could have come up with a better way to do it. Not preserving any of the mystery surrounding why Moiraine was out looking through the world, why she came to the Two Rivers. I don't understand that choice. It feels like they just really want to kind of power into the main meat of the story really quickly. And I don't get it. I thought I heard they had 10 episodes to work with this season. That's plenty enough time to have had the first episode be mysterious and not have us know why she's there, or that she's Aes Sedai until everyone else finds out when she starts hurling fire at everything at Trollocs. You know, that was a very effective bit of world building in the books, because it established for us that Aes Sedai have reasons not to go around letting everyone know they're Aes Sedai. And then, of course, when we see later situations where they do go around letting people know, that they have reasons for that too. We need to see that they are not just people who have stature and go places and wield power, but that they're people who think. Because that's the biggest power of the Aes Sedai. They're very clever and cunning, and their manipulations, their machinations in the world are really where they draw the bulk of their powers, not just the fact that they can channel. And that brings me to the single biggest disappointment for me. I thought the Trollocs looked fine, so I'm not going to really complain about them. They definitely need to workshop the lighting and textures a little bit more for the CG on them. But the models themselves, I did not think looked bad. They pretty much looked how I thought they should look in the books. I probably would have gone with a little more practical. I think they did a mixture of practical and digital. But I think I probably would have gone more towards the practical side, just because it's really hard to get really good looking fur and textures of like scales and things like that using pure CG. But for what they did, I don't think they did a bad job with that. But what I do think they did a bad job with was the fucking channeling. Moiraine's channeling looked like shit.
That was harsh, but accurate.
I did not get the feeling of raw power that you're supposed to get from seeing a fully trained sister of the Aes Sedai wielding the one power. That did not... It looked... I mean, who came up with this idea for the smoke effect? Really, all we should have seen as people outside looking in was what everyone else should have seen, was just the effects of what she was doing, not the weave. Normal people can't see the weave. And the weave, what they were trying to do there, I think, showing the weave, it just looked terrible. And there was no feeling of proportionality. Her movements did not seem to be directly tied to the scale of what she was doing. Like, she was doing so much, taking so much time to effectively do very little. She needs to feel impressive and powerful. Everyone who channels needs to feel impressive and powerful. They can't just be the big heavy hitters who feel powerful. They're supposed to feel godlike in terms of level of power. I would tell them, go watch Doctor Strange. Honestly, go watch Doctor Strange. No, even better, go watch Infinity War and watch Doctor Strange's fight against Thanos. That is what magic is supposed to look like. That's what we expect. We want to see people hurling around crazy amounts of cosmic elemental powers and wondering, oh my goodness, what on earth could stand up against that? I will say it was effective having her get injured in the fight. That was something that we did need to see, that Aes Sedai are not invulnerable. They have weaknesses, and if they, for instance, don't see an attack coming, it can get them just like it can get anybody else, even though they have all these crazy powers. They released 3 episodes all at once. I believe they did that for a reason. A lot of these shows will do that because the first episode isn't enough on its own to get anyone invested into the story. They'll release what they consider to be sort of the beginning arc and, give us a nice beginning, middle, and end to one part of the arc so that we can feel pulled in. And let's hope they can accomplish that, because they really need to step up their game from this one. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching my reaction. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Tell me what you guys thought of this first episode. Did it work for you? And do you think that the show will be able to correct itself from this shaky first episode? Anyway, guys, have yourselves a fantastic day. Be safe and be well. And I will see you for the next one. Bye-bye.